right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to talk about a few standards that we're covering: paraphrasing, direct quotations, plagiarism. When I taught freshmen, I was told by parents my son shouldn't get in trouble for cutting and pasting work from the internet and turning it in because he didn't know it was wrong. He didn't know what plagiarism was. And as a result, our district in what would that be? 2006 adopted a plagiarism policy. My high school had a plagiarism policy since 1915. And so Huntington adopted its first plagiarism policy right around 2004, the first year that I started working here. And so we want to make sure that everyone's clear on what plagiarism is, what you'll get in trouble for, and just as me as an English teacher, what I care about. Because there's sometimes I'll have a kid rewrite something, and there's times I'll have a kid get suspended for 3 days. So let's talk about the differences between them and how that affects your work. I want to talk to you briefly about yesterday. That's something I always have to do. Yesterday in class, we finished The Fall of the House of Usher. We turned in our fill-in-the-blank summary assignment for that. And today our goal is to introduce research standards and your self-guided essay. Look at that hyphen, because I use the word self, plus those words work together to describe essay. These are research and production standards for Common Core. Here's that requirement that you do a research project that is a self-generated question. The ones that I've highlighted in color are some of the skills we're going to be working on, using critical evaluation, gathering information, planning, editing, revising. And then this one is all about putting other people's work into your own writing, integrating it in, and like Brittany said, not just at the end of your paper with a works cited page, but as you actually use the sources, how do you integrate or put those in? They're called in-text citations. So these blanks follow the blanks in your notes. Please make sure that you copy the notes correctly, including the examples. I had 4 kids in first period who put the periods in the wrong place in the quotes. This is an area where citation is like math for words. Periods go in particular places, the colons, the quotes, so you have to follow your structure. Now, MLA is a beautiful citation style compared to some of the others like Chicago or APA, and you'll get to see APA later in the year. An MLA style, if you're going to avoid plagiarism by using other people's work, you have 2 options. You can use quotes, or you can paraphrase a source directly. And you should have already came into this class note. Even if you put things into your own words, I don't care what your teachers told you. I don't care how the professor at OU does it. Go to the internet, type in, how do you use MLA style, and you will see the style that I'm showing you. In MLA style, you can quote or paraphrase a source directly. Either way, you have to use citation as a means to say, this work is not mine. Give your author's last name or the title in order to do this. So in MLA style, there's 2 things you're supposed to show in your paper. And you'll like it more than APA because instead of dates and titles, you get to use authors' names and and page numbers. So this is a great recording. Give your author's last name or the title. Give the page or the paragraph number it comes from. More on that in a moment. For junior and senior classes, citation is needed even when you put things in your own words. If you do this, if you put something in your own words and then you don't give me the author's name and you don't give me the page number, I don't write up a discipline referral that equates a 3-day suspension, which is what our handbook has for plagiarism. The only kind of plagiarism that I'm interested in reinforcing in my classroom as a serious offense is cut and paste plagiarism. The only way you're getting into serious trouble is that you're running late, you're running behind, you're lazy, you're sloppy, and you cut and paste something and you don't cite it. You're going down for that. You cannot do that. This is academic work. So it's going to be important to stay abreast of your work, stay on top of it, make sure that you know what you're doing. But if you never cut and paste, you will never be in that problem. Just don't use that right click button on your mouse and you should be fine. There are three options in MLA style for how you can put quotes into your work or paraphrases into your work, and they each have a different formal requirement. So in MLA, the requirements for a short quote, and you'll get to see an example and make one yourself, it's less than 4 lines of written sentences or 3 lines of poetry and song lyrics. If you're writing about the greatest rock and roll band of all time, that might be relevant. So, duh. In closing quotations, direct quotes, things that you didn't write, things that belong to somebody else. That's a surefire way never to get in trouble for plagiarism. Your teacher might be like, you have too many direct quotes, but you didn't get in trouble. You just put quotes around them. So, in closing quotations, what does not belong to you, the direct quote. For the 8 millionth time, which will happen, I answer this question so many times during the second 9 weeks. If you use a source that doesn't have an author, some of them won't, use the title. That's your backup. So you go from author to title. Copy these down precisely. Make sure you pay attention where you put the period and where you put the quotation mark. There's 2 ways you can put your short, direct quotes into your paper. Choose either way that you like. And I'll read the 2 examples and note where the quotes go, where the page number goes, and where the period goes. So the first one is, Wordsworth stated that romantic poetry was marked by, well, look, it's a direct quote, a spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. There is no period after the S in feelings. It goes all the way at the end. You got to close down your quote, tell the page number it came from, and then put your period piggybacked right on the end. The second one, and you can choose whichever one you like, you can use. You can even mix them up, but whichever one you feel comfortable with. The second one still has the author's name, still has the page number, but you just hold off until the end after your quote. There's still no period after the S and the feelings. Then author's last name, page number. And sometimes you'll have like 3 authors. In that case, you write all 3 last names. But most of the time, we're talking about one author sources. Long quotations. I'm going over this because it's in my standards. I would not like to see long quotations in your papers because they don't count towards your length. I had kids like cut and paste and like put quotation marks around it, like boom, there's 1 page of my 5-page essay. Woohoo! Direct quotes don't count towards your length. So you shouldn't need long quotations, except maybe in certain situations. Here are the MLA rules for long quotations. If you have a piece of writing that's longer than the short requirement, it gets its own space. On the flip side is the visual for this. So if you don't understand what that means, on the back side it has a visual of all these rules for long quotations. So any longer than the short requirement, it gets its own space. You're going to indent 1 inch from the left margin and keep it double spaced. It needs to be introduced both in writing and with a colon. If you fail to do this, it is plagiarism. They said, why is it plagiarism? And you have to look at the example. I want to stay away from long quotations as best we can, because if you look at the example, there is no quotation marks with long quotations. That means that if Alicia's trying to put in a long quotation and forgets a piece of the proper citation, I can't tell what's her writing and what's not because there are no quotation marks. So you can use long quotations. It happens occasionally, but you need to be very, very careful when you're using long, direct quotes because it's just a dangerous area. There is an example on the flip side of your notes page over what it looks like should you find yourself in long quotation land. Paraphrases are what you should be most familiar with. Teachers are always asking you to take things out of your textbook and try to say it in your own words, whether it be science, whether it be social studies, for worksheets or for questions. So in your paper, paraphrases belong to you. They count towards your word length. They're better than direct quotes because it shows that the information went into your brain, bounced around, and it came out as something that you understood. So if you use a paraphrase, you must show work that you didn't invent. Yes, even if it is in your own words. You are supposed to cite it because you didn't do that research. It wasn't your original idea. Now, a reader needs to know where a paraphrase starts and where it ends. So if you look at those blue arrows down here, my favorite way to do it is to start with a phrase like, according to Justin Miller, whatever your author is, and then save until the end the page number. Now, guys, that's the same requirement as your short quote. So whatever you wrote down for your short quotation, it's the same example for your paraphrase. So a reader needs to know where it begins, where it ends. I'll take a highlighter in your paper and say, here's where it starts, and a lot of times people forget to end it or they'll forget to start it. A lot of you will get an article about global warming, and you'll read the whole article, and you're like, well, there's a little bit in here I want to use, but some's from the first paragraph, some's from the first page, some's from the end. What should I do? Should I cite it 12 times? What you can do, if it comes from a series of paragraphs or pages, if you're summarizing instead of paraphrasing, when you get to the page number, put the span. Is it from pages 1 to 2? Is it from pages 2 to 6? If you read a 10-page article and you want to summarize it in a couple of sentences, is it from page 1 to 10? Do not use PG for page or PP for paragraph. I believe that unless you needed something or you missed a blank, we are finished with like the notes portion of class.